I appreciate everyone gathering today for my wife.
At the funeral of a close friend, my husband referred to a woman I didn't know as his acquaintance. As my husband finished speaking and bowed, I stood up and shouted, "What on earth is this about? I am your wife, right?" The attention of the venue suddenly focused on me. There was a buzz around the room. My husband, perhaps noticing me for the first time, grew increasingly pale.
Huh? Why are you here?
That's my line. Explain yourself properly. As I glared at him, my husband, in a panicked expression, shouted at me.
Just go home. You have nothing to do with this.
Huh? Nothing to do with this? You. Before I could say anything, I was escorted out by the staff. At that moment, my anger reached its peak. Fine. If you're going to do that, I have an idea. After that, the husband, who had continued to betray his family, would face hell. My name is Susan Underwood. I am a 45-year-old working housewife. My family is from a land-owning family and runs a local real estate business. The land and real estate managed by our family make us, in a way, a wealthy family. My father, who is 70 years old, is the eldest son of the head family. He was the patriarch of the family and considered the boss among his relatives. He is a dignified but kind and gentle father to his children. And my mother is a gentle, laid-back housewife. I was born as their only daughter. After graduating from a women's university, I pursued my childhood dream of becoming an elementary school teacher. While my father seemed a bit disappointed that I didn't take over the family real estate business, he eventually blessed the path I chose. I remained single, dedicated to my teaching career into my late 20s. Although my concerned parents tried to set up arranged marriages several times, I continued to decline. It was during this time that I met Karen, who would later become my husband. After work, it was my daily routine to have coffee at a nearby cafe before heading home. One day, as usual, I went to the cafe, and due to a sudden rain shower, all the seats were taken. As I was acquainted with the owner, he asked me to sit with him, and I agreed. Karen was sitting in front of me at the time. At first, there was an awkward silence, but Karen broke it by commenting on the heavy rain. From there, casual conversation started. He worked as an employee for a nationwide rental agency and was the same age as me. Moreover, he lived nearby. When I mentioned my family's involvement in real estate, we found common ground. We exchanged contact information and went on several dates at that cafe, eventually leading to a relationship. After a year of dating, Karen proposed, and we became engaged. Bringing him to meet my parents, they were quite pleased, and my father said with a smile,
I never expected Susan to have such a partner. I support the marriage. I'm really happy.
Karen responded nervously.
Thank you, sir. I will make Susan happy.
My dad, satisfied with Karen's respectful response, then becomes serious.
Regarding our wishes for the marriage, if it's okay with you, Kieran, we would like you to become our son-in-law. Son-in-law?
Karen seems surprised. My father continues to explain to him.
Susan has no intention of quitting her job as a teacher, and ideally, we would like you to become the successor to our family company. You have qualifications in real estate, and I think it's not a bad proposition.
After thinking for a while, Karen tells my dad this.
I'll have to ask my dad for his opinion. I cannot reply to you right now, but I will think about it positively.
The following week, we went to Karen's father to seek permission for the marriage. Karen's mother had passed away early, leaving only his father at home. Upon hearing the discussion, Karen's father immediately gave his approval.
I respect your feelings. Karen, you take good care of Susan.
And so our marriage and Karen's acceptance into the family were decided. Karen left his job and started working at my family's real estate company. Meanwhile, I continued my job as a teacher. Within the first year of our marriage, I became pregnant. We welcomed a baby boy named Skylar. Despite the challenges of parenting, we overcame them successfully. Even now, 18 years into our marriage, we lead a simple and happy life. The only source of dissatisfaction is Kieran's increasingly busy work schedule for the past 5 years. He works late on weekdays, and weekends are consistently occupied with meetings or seminars, keeping him away from home. When Skylar was younger, we spent every day together, and on Kieran's days off, we used to go out somewhere. However, this abruptly changed 5 years ago. Skylar was in the upper grades of elementary school by then, and at an age when he wanted to be with his friends rather than his parents. So it wasn't a significant issue. When Skylar took the middle school entrance exam, my husband offered a little support and seemed uninterested. Naturally, the conversations between us, as a couple, drastically decreased. During the high school entrance exams, Kieran mostly offered words like, "Well, do your best," and provided minimal support, leaving me to handle almost all aspects of sending Skylar to tutoring, as well as supporting him through the exams. Frustrated, I spoke to Kieran once. "Hey, Kieran, lately it feels like you've been so immersed in work that you're neglecting the family. I want you to talk more with Skylar." At this, Kieran responded with a somewhat irritated expression. "He's not at an age where his parents need to constantly fuss over him, is he?" "But you don't even take time for us as a couple." "I've said it many times. I'm busy with work right now. This is a period of training until your father officially hands over the company to me. If I don't dedicate myself to the business, and it doesn't run smoothly, it will be a problem for you and the relatives, right?" "Well, yes, but..." With dissatisfaction still evident in me, Kieran let out a deep sigh. "I've been working hard since marrying into this family. Isn't it natural for you, as my wife, to understand that and support me?" "I understand. My father still operates the real estate company as the president. Kieran has become an executive, supporting my father and learning the business in the process." With the sense of indebtedness from requesting him to marry into the family, I couldn't press Kieran further. One day, amid such a life, I received a message on my phone, and the sender was Kayla, my friend from college. We were close friends since our university days, both aspiring to become teachers. Even after becoming teachers, we often dined together, and she attended my wedding, showing affection for Skylar. However, due to our busy schedules and my focus on Skylar's exams, we hadn't met for a while. I wonder what happened to Kayla. Since we haven't seen each other for a while, maybe she's inviting me for tea? While thinking about such things, I opened my phone and was so surprised that my eyes widened. It turned out to be a notice of Kayla's passing sent by her mother. "My daughter Kayla peacefully passed away after a year-long battle with illness." Despite feeling dizzy from that message, I called Kayla's number. Kayla's mother answered the phone immediately. According to her mother, Kayla had been battling cancer for a year. However, it was in vain, and she passed away yesterday. "That girl, Kayla, hadn't talked to you, Susan, about her illness. Perhaps she didn't want to burden you. She wasn't married, and if possible, I'd like to invite her friends to the funeral." Kayla's mother told me in tears, to which I replied in a tearful voice, "Of course." As it was mentioned that it was already too late for the wake, I decided to attend the farewell ceremony the next day. I reached out to friends from our school days and, feeling somewhat dazed, took out mourning clothes. "Kayla, why didn't she tell me? I can't believe I won't see Kayla again." Tears overflowed one after another. Even so, I had to properly say goodbye to Kayla. On the other hand, Kieran said he wouldn't be back until the 23rd due to a business trip and left the house in a hurry yesterday. Although I tried contacting my husband, he didn't answer the phone. I left a message saying I'm going to a friend's funeral, but he still hasn't read it. However, it's not the right time for that now. I went to sleep quietly, shedding tears for Kayla. The next day, I headed to Kayla's funeral venue. The funeral hall was spacious, and it seemed there was another funeral taking place in a different section. I approached the reception with Kayla's name, expressed my condolences, and entered the venue. When I saw the figure of my best friend inside, tears couldn't be stopped. The ceremony concluded smoothly, and I bid farewell to Kayla for the last time. As Kayla, placed in the hearse, was taken away, I clasped my hands again, shedding tears once again. Before leaving, I decided to go to the restroom and headed to the toilet at the far end. On the day, I caught a glimpse of the adjacent funeral hall. Huh? I inadvertently let out a gasp. Standing in front of the altar, bowing to the attendees, was none other than my husband, Kieran. Is this someone else's funeral? I didn't hear about this. I looked at the name in front of the venue. There it was, Samantha Kane. A name I didn't know. The young woman smiling in the portrait was unfamiliar to me, but my husband unmistakably stood there, offering greetings as if he were a family member. Unable to comprehend the situation, I stood frozen.
Please take a seat as the ceremony is about to begin.
The staff motioned to me to take a seat at the back of the hall, and I sat down. My husband continued to occupy the family seat as usual. Next to him, a man and a woman who seemed to be the parents of the woman were sitting crying. In the quiet venue, a voice echoed through the microphone.
Today, we have gathered to express our gratitude for my wife, Samantha.
The one who uttered those words was my husband, Kieran. I was left speechless and could only listen in silence.
Samantha passed away from a sudden heart attack 2 days ago. Even though it was unexpected, I am overwhelmed with grief.
The man tearfully sharing his words unmistakably appeared to be my husband. At that moment, I realized everything. This must be the funeral of Kieran's affair partner. And what is this about a wife? As Kieran finished speaking and lowered his head, I stood up and shouted, Kieran, what on earth is going on here? Am I not your wife? The attention of everyone in the venue shifted towards me. There was a buzz around the room. My husband, perhaps noticing me for the first time, grew increasingly pale.
Huh? Why are you here?
That's my line. Explain yourself properly. As I glared at him, my husband angrily yelled at me with a troubled expression.
Just go home. You have nothing to do with this.
Huh? Nothing to do with this? You... At that moment, Kieran spoke through the microphone.
I apologize for the disturbance. She is my ex-girlfriend from the past who has been stalking me. She has some mental instability and tends to have extreme misunderstandings.
What?
I never thought she would appear at my wife's funeral. We will have her removed immediately, so please, rest assured. Staff, please.
Before I could say anything, I was grabbed by the staff on both sides and dragged outside. The door closed in front of me, and a sense of despair overwhelmed me. At that moment, my anger reached its peak, betraying the family without a proper explanation, treating me like a stalker, and kicking me out. What on earth was he thinking? Fine, if that's the way it is, I have my own plans. 1 hour later, I stood with my arms crossed at the top back entrance, waiting for the right moment. The door opened, and the coffin was placed in the hearse. Kieran, crying, tried to get into the passenger seat of the hearse. I immediately rushed out and grabbed his arm.
Huh? Are you still here?
Kieran wore a look of shock. and the surrounding mourners also looked at me with confusion. Enough already. Explain properly in front of these people.
Huh? I told you, you're my stalker ex-girlfriend. Steph, get this woman out of here quickly.
At that moment, a low voice echoed.
Who's the ex-girlfriend stalker here? Huh? Dad?
Kieran turned pale rapidly. Behind me were my parents, father-in-law, and many relatives, all glaring at him with crossed arms.
What the hell is this?
You, who is supposed to be my husband, have been reported as the husband of a stranger. So I gathered everyone here to make the announcement. To all the relatives, too. Skylar is at school, by the way. Kieran finally seemed to give in, slumping to the ground. An elderly woman in mourning attire, likely Samantha's mother, confronted him. Hey, Kieran, you're Samantha's husband, right? What is going on here? The funeral attendees became unsettled, creating a commotion. You're Samantha's mother, aren't you? Would you mind having a conversation? I approached her and suggested we stop the hearse to talk inside the hall. Surrounded by a large extended family, his father, and my parents, Kieran was completely dwarfed and trembling. Ignoring Kieran, I explained the situation to Samantha's parents. Kieran and I got married 18 years ago and have a 16-year-old son. At that point, Samantha's parents began to speak as if abruptly leaving their seats. Kieran and Samantha got married 4 years ago. It seemed their relationship started when Samantha, a bookstore clerk, was approached by Kieran, a regular customer. When he expressed a desire to marry her, she initially opposed it, citing their age difference. However, upon realizing the genuine love between them, she eventually gave her approval. Due to Kieran's busy work schedule and frequent business trips, they could only meet on weekends, but Samantha appeared happy until she passed away due to a heart attack the day before yesterday. Having heard everything, I glared at Kieran. How about you confess with your own words soon? Kieran finally resigned himself. He confessed to hiding his marital status and having been in a relationship with Samantha for 5 years. However, he didn't want to relinquish his position as the heir to the real estate company, so he led a double life.
I'm truly sorry, but this was just an affair. Please, forgive me.
Kieran, on his knees, bowed deeply to my relatives. A figure approached him, my enraged father.
What a foolish son. What have you done?
With all his might, my father shoved Kieran, sending both him and the chair flying.
Dad, why?
My father, with a stern expression, spoke coldly to the stunned Kieran.
I can't let someone like you inherit our company. Susan, what about you?
Divorce is a given, Dad.
Huh? Divorce? Not inheriting the company either. What?
As Kieran began to panic, I said to him with a decisive tone, What have you done to Samantha and me? A supposedly honest man like you can go to hell. I don't want to see this scumbag face of yours. Condemned by a multitude of people, Kieran sat there like an empty shell. Later, Kieran and I got divorced. With the help of a lawyer, I successfully obtained alimony for the affair and child support. Kieran was also estranged from my father, who refused to acknowledge him as the heir to the real estate company. Facing lawsuits from Samantha's parents, he fell into a messy legal battle. Kieran lost everything: his home, his family, and his livelihood. He seems to have rolled into a difficult phase of life, working tirelessly like a workhorse for alimony and child support. Even hearing this, I feel no sympathy at all. I can only hope that Samantha's parents receive the fullest possible restitution. I, on the other hand, am back at home with my son Skylar and living a peaceful life. My father, who seemed downcast after losing his successor, appears to have regained motivation after Skylar encouraged him, saying, Once I graduate from college, I'll take over. My father is currently saying things like, I need to stay healthy until then. I look forward to Skylar's growth and a brighter life ahead.